Welcome to Earth and Sky Camp. The hands-on learning activities that I'm going to show you can increase anyone's understanding of the world. You'll be surprised at how accurately you can sketch maps using the drawing by squares method. You'll start by drawing the world on your computer and then on physical surfaces like chalkboards and basketballs. We all have mental maps of the world. If you gave college students large sheets of paper and asked them to each draw and label a map of the world from memory, this is what you could expect to see. However, many students have mental world maps that are much less accurate. All Earth and Sky Camp activities are designed to enhance your mental map of the world. Drawing and labeling maps is the core activity, but you can also explore places using the map's links to photos, websites, and videos. The Earth and Sky quizzes will sharpen your locational knowledge of cities and stars. The format of the map makes it easy to remember these locations because it can act as a memory device. All of the app's maps are based on the manual map projection. Map projections are geometric systems for converting a three-dimensional spherical surface into a two-dimensional flat surface. Associating the 24 primary squares of the map with the 24 segments on your fingers is the key to remembering locations. The manual map projection is a type of mnemonic device. Mnemonic is a Greek word that means memory. There are different types of mnemonic devices. The most common are name mnemonics. These are acronyms and phrases, like the word Holmes. Each letter refers to one of the Great Lakes: Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. Most children use the ABC song to learn the alphabet. That's music mnemonics. Before the invention of printing, image mnemonics was the most common device. It was used for lists of things like people and places. It can also be called spatial mnemonics. This device was invented by the Greeks and adopted by the Romans. A Greek speaker on a stage might be required to introduce important people at a theater. Before the event, he associates the names of these VIPs with where they will be seated. Days later, he finds that he can quickly memorize other people's names by mentally assigning them seats in that theater. It was also common to associate lists with the seating of rooms in a palace. Europeans who spoke Latin were still using the method of loci in the Middle Ages. Your 24 finger segments are similar to the seating sections of a theater or the rooms of a palace. By dividing them into blue and red zones, you organize them symmetrically. The blue and red color zones are 30 degrees wide. There are 6 zones of each color. Each finger segment represents 60 degrees and has both a blue and red zone. In this illustration, the finger segments are not aligned, but if you cup or curl your fingers, you will see that the segments do line up to form a grid. They will also appear more square. The app displays 17 views of an Earth map and 1 view of a sky map. The partial views of the Earth are based on the 4 directions of north, east, south, and west. The Earth maps are shown at 3 different scales. The world map is the default view. Dividing it along the equator and the prime meridian results in the northwest, northeast, southwest, and southeast views. These 4 views are displayed separately at twice the scale of the world map. The northwest view is the top left portion of the world map. This view can be similarly divided into 4 sections. The northeast-northwest map is the top right quarter of the northwest map. It's one of the 12 views that is displayed at 4 times the scale of the world map. The default view of the app is the study mode. The buttons display the locations of cities, waterways, areas, and videos. The clear button removes all information displayed over the map. Clicking on the Waterways button will display the names of navigable bodies of water, like oceans and seas, as well as large lakes and rivers. Depending on the scale of a map, clicking the Areas button will display the names of continents, nations, and islands. Clicking on the Cities button will display circular icons where major cities are located. Mousing over these icons will display a photo and the name of the city next to the map. Clicking on a city's icon will open a new browser tab with a search for the city. Clicking the Videos button will display icons of the map that link to YouTube videos. Pointing at an icon with your mouse will display a small embedded video next to the map and its title below the map. You can click on the embedded video to watch it, but clicking on its circular icon will open a new tab where you can watch a larger version of the video on the YouTube website. The quiz mode provides an activity to strengthen your locational knowledge of cities and areas. There are quizzes for every map. If you can correctly click on a city or area's location, a check mark appears after the name. The location's distance from an incorrect click is indicated by numbers with horizontal and vertical arrows. There is a saying that the map is not the territory. The scientific models we make to understand reality are never the same as the reality. When you compare a globe to the manual map, you can see that the straight black lines on the map are actually circles on a globe, and the top and bottom horizontal lines of the map are actually points on a globe. The north and south poles are represented on the map with a line that's the same width as the equator. We can use the map's straight black lines with the drawing by squares method. The Egyptians were using this same method almost 4,000 years ago to make large drawings and sculptures. After a grid of squares has been placed over an image, it can be transferred to a grid of larger squares by copying it one square at a time. As long as each square is roughly the same, the enlarged drawing will be very similar to the original image. The app's primary sketch tools are a pen and eraser. Both work by clicking and dragging your mouse. There is also an undo and a clear button. Clicking clear removes everything you have sketched, and clicking undo removes whatever you added last. There are also shortcut keys to enable you to more quickly correct your sketch map without moving the mouse back and forth to the control panel. Press the U key for undo, and pressing either the E or P characters on your keyboard will toggle between the pen and eraser tools. Clicking the text button will turn off the shortcut keys for the undo function and the pen and eraser tools. With the text tool selected, whatever you type will be saved. It can then be positioned as a label wherever you next click the mouse. Because you can't see the text before you position it, you will often need to click the undo button and retype the label to best position it. The dot tool is used for indicating cities and stars. The line tool is used for drawing constellations, and arrows for the labels. Lines are drawn by clicking the mouse in two spots. You often need to change the colors of dots and lines with the black, blue, and red buttons. The number below the color buttons indicates the sizes of dots, lines, and text letters. You can increase or decrease the number to change their size. The Pen and West buttons are selected by default when you start to sketch an earth map. You will need to click the East and the Grid buttons to the right of the West button in order to sketch both the west and east sides of a map. For example, this is the view you will see when you start to sketch the northeast-northwest map. The coastlines and islands are shifted to the right side of the map, so that you can copy them onto the western squares. Whenever you sketch a map, the best approach is usually from west to east and from north to south. You should draw continents before islands and large islands before small ones. Note that drawing accurately with a computer mouse is more difficult than with a marker or with chalk. Zooming your browser in to make maps larger can help. Click the East button to copy the eastern squares of a map. This will display the eastern areas on the left side of the map. When you click the Grid button, you will see the app saved whatever you sketched on the western side of the map. That Grid button will now display the word All. Clicking the All button will display the full map below your sketch map. This view enables you to check how accurately you have copied the squares. Use the Eraser tool to remove inaccurate lines. Some areas are more difficult to draw than others. The islands of Great Britain and Ireland are especially difficult because they are very small and have irregular shapes. Click the West and East buttons to correct the erased lines. You might be tempted to just trace the lines from the All view of the map below your sketch. However, this will not help you to properly observe the locations and shapes of coastlines and borders. Notice that some of the crosshairs are darker and heavier than others. They indicate important locations for drawing coastlines more accurately. For example, Ireland is only 5 degrees wide. Its eastern coast begins at 6 degrees west and its west coast ends at 11 degrees west. The dark crosshairs above and to the left of Ireland can help you locate it more precisely. There are 3 types of crosshairs on the maps. Center crosshairs are surrounded by small circles. The corner crosshairs indicate the 15-degree wide squares. The smaller crosshairs occur at 5-degree intervals. Noticing where these darker crosshairs occur in relation to coastlines is the key to being able to accurately sketch a world map. After you complete the coastlines, use the dot tool to locate important cities. You may need to open another tab on your web browser to view the location of cities in the app's study mode. Using blue and red dots will help you to associate them with a primary square's blue and red zones. You should include national capitals and large economic centers, but you can also locate any places that are of interest to you. The text tool is all you will need to label most places, but sometimes you also need to use the line tool as an arrow to point to a dot. To draw a straight line with the line tool, first click on the city and then somewhere next to its name. After you have sketched a map, you can download it to your computer or upload it to the Earth and Sky Camp gallery. In order for your sketch map to be approved, it must be reasonably accurate, and you need to enter your name, age, school, and city. It can take several seconds for your map to upload after clicking the Submit button, so wait before clicking anything else. If the upload is successful, the app will display the message, Sketch Map Uploaded. In the future, you will need to log in order to upload maps or photos to the gallery. This will make it easier for you and the people who know you to view your maps. After being approved, sketch maps are currently displayed according to their scale and upload date. The most recent and smaller scale maps are displayed first. Below the computer maps, the gallery displays photos of maps and globes. The form for submitting photos is at the bottom of the gallery page. You can use the Drawing by Squares method to sketch maps on a variety of surfaces. These include chalkboards and paper, walls and floors, and basketballs. Remember that drawing a larger version of the map is easier than a smaller version. Sketching maps on your computer requires a mouse, as do the app's study and quiz modes. So they are not suited for mobile phones. However, students can use the manual maps displayed on their phones to physically copy them onto any physical surface. Drawing a world map from memory takes practice, and chalkboards are the ideal place to do it. You can use a yardstick to make a grid on the chalkboard, but it's faster to sketch one freehand. You can use your sense of symmetry to draw squares and to locate their centers. If a square looks too narrow or too wide, just erase and redraw one of its sides. In this grid, you can see the squares aren't perfectly square, but they're close enough for making a sketch map. Note that you should usually omit the row of squares south of 50 degrees. Including Antarctica will reduce the space you have for the rest of the world on your chalkboard. In this photo, you see a completed chalkboard sketch map. What you can't see without looking closely is that small dots have been drawn where the important crosshairs occur. Your natural sense of symmetry will enable you to divide squares in half and approximate the locations of the crosshairs. While quarter and 5-degree crosshairs are important for sketching coastlines accurately, the key to memorizing the map is to remember what is located at the center crosshairs. On your left index finger, centers occur at Alaska, Canada, and in the Arctic Ocean just off the shore of Greenland. On your right index finger, all center crosshairs are within Russia. The centers on your middle fingers occur in the Pacific Ocean, the city of New Orleans, the Atlantic Ocean, the cities of Cairo, Egypt, and Lhasa, Tibet, and in the Pacific Ocean. The centers of your ring fingers are in the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean, near the coast of South Africa, in the Indian Ocean, and near the eastern coast of Australia. The centers on your left little finger are all in the Southern Ocean, with the coastline of western Antarctica next to the corner crosshairs below them, whereas the coastline of eastern Antarctica runs along the center crosshairs on your other little finger. Students don't need to memorize the manual map in order to use it to study geography. Making maps in teams is an activity students can do together while seated at their desks. 4 to 8 students can be grouped into teams and given photocopies of 6x6 grids of squares. If each square represents 15 degrees of longitude, one sheet represents 90 degrees. You can download a printable PDF of this grid from the gallery page. Students must cooperate with each other in order to combine their drawings into a world map. Teachers will have to offer more help and supervision to some teams than to others. The manual map can also be expanded with sheets of butcher block paper. The best place to do this is in a cafeteria where students can work around large tables. Yardsticks are needed for making grids on the 36-inch wide bands of butcher block paper. The grid is drawn in pencil, and so is the map. However, markers are then used to draw the map's coastlines and borders. This activity will take more than one class period. Once you start looking, you will see lots of grids of squares already made. The overlapping cinder blocks and many school walls form square grids. But mostly, you will see grids under your feet. A tile floor or a stone courtyard at your school might be a good place for your class to sketch a map. This courtyard world map was sketched by several classes of students using sidewalk chalk. I located and labeled the latitude and longitude of the primary squares of the seams of the stone courtyard for the students. Prior to going outside, each class was shown on the chalkboard what squares they would be sketching.